Walt used to say, there was a funny old dog in town when I was a boy, and he'd come around sniffing and getting mixed up in things.
Yeah.
He was a nice dog, though, and he appreciated when you were kind to him. That sort of gave us a view of what Walt wanted to see in the dog. Mm-hmm. Real dog, all the way through.
He's a marvelous dog. All he had to do was to find what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. It was the keeping the character of the dog.
In the chain gang, there were two bloodhounds that, may be the predecessors to what became Pluto. Then in a short called The Picnic, there was a dog named Rover, getting more like Pluto.
I think in the early animation with Pluto, when he was just handled as Mickey's pet, you really didn't see him think. Then later on, when especially an animator called Norm Ferguson took him over and really gave him feelings and thoughts without talking, I think that caught their attention. They said, maybe we have a new star here. We can do something with this.
My favorite Pluto cartoon is Playful Pluto, which is the flypaper sequence where you feel something for the character, you believe in the character, you see a character that does have a thinking process. It's not a series of gags that just go one to the other. The important thing is not what he does, but how he feels about it. And there's an emotional arc that happens in that sequence. It starts, where he first encounters the flypaper and it's annoying, and then he tries to shake it off and then gets another part of himself caught on it. So this ups the ante in terms of his frustration. He gets more angry when it gets on his rump and he has to, run around trying to get it off. The best part is he gets it off and thinks he's succeeded and looks at the camera Chaplin-esque like, and he's very happy, and as he settles his rear end down, the piece of flypaper floats down and he sits in it again. Well, it's a thinking character, and it was something that was quite unusual on the screen. Pluto was a pantomime character, so therefore there were subtleties in terms of his facial expressions and his timing and all that, but he's basically a hot dog with legs, and it's kind of, you have to make broad gestures to get across the idea.
I think Pluto really doesn't look like a dog, because his anatomy is so compromised and simplified, but he sure behaves like one. And Norm Ferguson and all these old animators, they certainly had to study dogs.
And the first picture I had was Mickey's elephant. And the elephant he had never seen before, didn't know he was in behind the fence. And he was walking along, and the elephant was playing with a ball, something that came rolling out of between the fence. And then Pluto stopped and looked down at it, and very curious. And then the elephant inside, so the ball went zoop, back into the fence. And that was the type of situation you had with Pluto.
But he was always doing something entertaining.
Because he was always thinking.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's what struck me about him, is that you can see his thought process.
That's exactly it.
It's making the character live, make him moving, and the thinking is the best part of that. And then the rest of your picture has to be why he's feeling that way. The dog isn't going to like that elephant at all and growl at him and snap at him. But then the elephant looked so sorry about it that Pluto would look at him like, well, don't let it happen again. And you go on about him, and you could put in things like that because real dogs can do that, and do.
When Mickey and Pluto were in a scene together, would the same person animate both characters? Was it necessary to do that to have the interaction, or would two different animators work on that?
There was quite a bit of a time where you have two characters in the scene, and to get the scene done and moving along, you'd say, well, you do the, whoever this is here, and you do Pluto. And this guy'd say, I wanted to do Pluto.
Would Walt act out Pluto when he was doing that kind of cartoon too?
He'd talk about it. He didn't always get up and make the movements all himself, but
He didn't plan an act. He just felt it. It just came out of him as he was saying the lines in it. So,
he just natural. And lay out suggestions, let you take it, go on from there, or he'd cut you back and say, oh, I don't know about that. So he was good. He had ideas.
When Walt Disney saw something he liked, he never complimented the animators to their face. But what he would do to the person who came up with the thing he liked was to say, yeah, now maybe you could try this. And he would sort of build on it immediately. You know, it was good, it could be better, and here's what we do. And I'm sure he did the same thing with Ferguson and Pluto, in that he probably said, yeah, that's great the way that bloodhound does that. But you know, when dogs are in the country and they're out on a cold night, they sort of do this with their, you know, their noses and their shoulders, and he would sort of imitate it and build on that thing that had already been established. So I think in that way he contributed to the creation of Pluto. The name Pluto came from Walt Disney himself. I think he had a dog at home named Pluto, and he came in one day and they were trying to think of a name for this rover-like dog, and he said, how about Pluto? And of course, yes, Walt, that's a good name, so it stuck.
Why do you think Pluto is a great character?
Walt saw him as a real dog, and all of the things in a real dog that wasn't trained. He couldn't do tricks. He couldn't, except as you needed one, he'd sort of do it accidentally.
Audiences could relate to this dog. I mean, even the silly things he was doing, he had a process that revealed his emotions. And he was thinking about the things that he did. So when you see a drawing on the screen that doesn't just move around in a funny way, but actually stops and considers its situation and then acts on it, this is fascinating. Several animators who later joined the Disney studio joined it because of Pluto. They said, my gosh, this is great. How did they do that?
You have to have the feeling that this character is alive and feeling what's going on.
Situation.
And that's a tough thing to do. But that's what was fun for us. We loved it.